Since its founding, our country held the belief that citizens possess certain rights and liberties that are unnatural to restrict. Crafted by James Madison, the Bill of Rights is supposed to protect citizens from government. Its adoption to the Constitution as the first 10 amendments was critical to the South's ratification of new government, as anti-federalists wanted these rules in place to protect them from tyrannical rule. The First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The First Amendment gave citizens rights which were previously restricted by England's colonial government. Courageously, a national authority gave democracy and liberty to its citizens instead of acquiring more power. Although restricted to an elite few, this democratic ideal evolved over time, and the ideals that were first set in place by the Founding Fathers are the ones we still adhere to today. As democracy grew in the United States, so too did its national pride. New states joined the Union, and immigrants contributed to a growing American population, causing the national flag to grow in its importance. It symbolized freedom and liberty from oppression, a new American identity, as well as a new start for anyone willing to work for the American dream. The flag was freedom. Throughout our wars, the flag carried these ideals into battle, from the Civil War to the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II. Justice and freedom was the goal. Although these ideals were not always the true causes of the war, a strong American support negated this reality.
Welcome to the 60s. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, mama, welcome to the 60s. Oh, 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 oh. Go, mama, go, go, go. Welcome to the 60s. Oh, 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 oh. Hey, mama. Yeah.
The 60s were a combination of societal tradition and large-scale rebellion against these beliefs. People all over were fed up with expectations of submission to the authority. The feminist movement, environmental movement, sexual revolution, and the civil rights movement featured many young Americans who had enough of these expectations. As these protests spread across the country, rebellion became a teenage theme, something to be expected. This continued to grow as all of these groups advocated for the end of the Vietnam War towards the later part of the decade. Nothing stirs up national pride like a war, but the ethical tightrope that the U.S. government treaded upon soon grew thin, and many protested to end the war. Some of the more radical groups hated the U.S. government as a whole, showing their message by burning U.S. flags. In response, Congress passed legislation to punish those who desecrated the American flag, the Flag Protection Act of 1968. Standing to defend American honor, this law forced offenders to pay a fine of $1,000 and/or up to a year in prison. Although many were upset about the violation of their constitutional rights, nothing was changed for over 20 years. In the mid-80s, Gregory Lee Johnson, a member of the Revolutionary Communist Party, was one of many protesters standing against U.S. intervention in the Americas and the Middle East.
I was in a protest in Dallas, Texas in 1984 when Reagan was being renominated for his second term as American president.
After burning an American flag outside of a Republican rally in Texas in 1984, Johnson was arrested under state law that prohibited flag desecration. Although he initially lost his trial, his case made it to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. The court acquitted Johnson of all charges made known as the Texas v. Johnson ruling. Fearing that desecration law would be unenforced in the court system, Texas asked the Supreme Court to take the case. This debate was one that went to the core of American identity. A cultural respect for freedom had long been cherished, and we had always seen ourselves as a haven for those who are persecuted elsewhere. Is it not against the very rules that the flag represents not to allow it to be burned? Or is the importance of democracy and freedom that the flag represents more influential and important than the protection of a disrespectful action like burning the flag? These were questions that both the country and the Supreme Court debated for several months. In 1989, the Supreme Court heard oral arguments, and a few months later, handed down their ruling for the Texas v. Johnson case.
Of the nation. The court ruled today that burning the American flag as a form of political protest is a right protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution. The decision reflects a very divided court. The debate, as always, deeply divides the country.
From the concurrence, Justice Kennedy wrote, "For all the record shows, this respondent was not a philosopher and perhaps did not even possess the ability to comprehend how repellent his statements must be to the Republic itself. But whether or not he could appreciate the enormity of the offense that he gave, the fact remains that his acts were speech, in both the technical and the fundamental meaning of the Constitution. So I agree with the court that he must go free." Liberals celebrated this action as one of acceptance and protection of freedom. It was a massive social shift from the previous disdain for communists. They felt like the First Amendment truly protected their rights, and they could say whatever they wanted without fearing legal intervention. A utopia of free-flowing ideas was the goal of these liberals, and the court's ruling seemed to reaffirm this opinion. Immediately, the court's decision repealed all state laws that punished flag burning, as these laws were in violation of the Constitution. This had a profound social impact on a great number of citizens, as they banded together in defense of the ruling. However, a large part of the country viewed this as an abomination, a celebration of disloyalty.
The four dissenters were led by Chief Justice William Rehnquist, who complained the government may conscript men to fight and perhaps die for the flag, but with today's ruling may not prohibit the public burning of the banner under which they fight. Flag burning is the equivalent of an inarticulate grunt or roar, said the Chief Justice, most likely not intended to express any particular idea, but to antagonize others. The ruling, which cast doubt on laws in nearly every state against desecrating the flag, produced sharp reaction.
Well, there's been a lot of talk lately about how the Supreme Court of the United States is tilting right. Well, the day it didn't tilt right, it tilted wrong.
The flag is a symbol of national unity and deserves respect.
Within months of the court's ruling, Congress took political action. They passed the Flag Protection Act, which effectively overruled the Supreme Court by making it a federal offense to desecrate the U.S. flag. Thousands protested this action by burning U.S. flags in the streets. This was later overruled in 1990 with U.S. v. Eichmann, where the Supreme Court restated that one could not make it a crime to disrespect the U.S. flag. This time, however, the rule applied to the entire U.S., nullifying several federal laws which prohibited flag burning and desecration. Over the years, many other political attempts have been made to change the Supreme Court's decision. The Flag Protection Amendment and similar legislation has never passed congressional approval after U.S. v. Eichmann, although attempted many times. Federal representatives and senators have tried to pass this bill in 1995, 1997, 1999, 2000, 2001, 2003, 2005, and 2006. Each time they do not receive the 67 votes needed to pass through the Senate, and have never had less than 63 votes. This case is one that continues to have an impact today. Freedom of speech is still a very debated topic in the United States, and it always has been. Although current debates about the First Amendment do not always concern the flag, sometimes they most definitely do. Johnson was even arrested in 2016 for another flame-related incident.
And we've learned that the man responsible for the seminal Supreme Court case that ruled flag-burning protected speech was arrested today in Cleveland in this incident.
I went through 5 years of this battle around this flag case to find out that the Supreme Court is not so supreme.
Overall, Texas v. Johnson had a significant impact on the United States. It signified the end of the Cold War, as the U.S. allowed a radical communist to become a martyr of free speech. It marked a new age of liberalism that followed into the 1990s, and it marked an age of debate, when the legal opinions of those that disagreed with oneself were still protected by the constitutional rights that America promises to all its citizens. The contradiction of burning something that symbolizes your right to burn it was not lost on the political discord of the world. We continue this debate as the argument comes up on TV nearly every May Day, as thousands parade the streets and burn U.S. flags. These social, cultural, and political outcomes demonstrate why Texas v. Johnson had a profound impact on society, and how it continues to affect us today.